The year is 1928, somewhere in the snow-covered Indian mountains of the Karakoram. A mountaineer is preparing his gear for a new ascent. Suddenly, he spots a bright ray of light amid the peaks and decides to find out what is going on. As he makes his way toward the source of the light, he discovers a luminous sphere covered by a thin layer of ice. Curiosity overcomes him, and he strikes the ice with a pickaxe. He is immediately enveloped in a bright light, which causes him to lose consciousness. When he comes to, the sphere has vanished, and a strange round mark has appeared on his arm. Astrobiologist Dr. Helen Benson appears next, lecturing on extraterrestrial bacteria at Princeton University. After class, a lab technician invites her to a party, but she declines because her young stepson Jacob is waiting at home. Their relationship is strained. The boy refuses to eat healthy food and stays glued to video games. Helen receives a mysterious call. Someone recites her address and says a car is on its way. Moments later, a police squad knocks at her door. A man in a suit explains that the FBI needs her help immediately. Without any details, she agrees to leave Jacob with the neighbor and gets into the car. On the drive, Helen presses the agents for details, but they know nothing. The urgency is clear, given the convoy of police cars. The motorcade reaches an airfield, and Helen boards a helicopter with other civilians escorted by soldiers. None of them knows why they were taken. They include specialists from various fields such as physics, astronomy, and engineering. The group is taken to the Linwood Military Academy in New Jersey. At the entrance, the military collects everyone's phones, though Helen conceals hers. They are greeted by Dr. Michael Granier, who explains that an unidentified object is approaching Earth on an odd trajectory. According to preliminary calculations, it will collide with the planet, and its tremendous speed renders a missile interception impossible. The government has therefore assembled an emergency response team. They have just over an hour before the object hits Manhattan. After the briefing, Helen hides in a bathroom to call Jacob and warn him, telling him to lock himself in the basement until the storm passes. Her call is overheard by a soldier, who later borrows the phone to call her own family. The team heads by helicopter to the expected impact site. Anxiety grows as the object nears. The rocket system is blocked, and the object remains unidentified. They hold hands, bracing for the crash, but nothing happens. Through the window, they see a bright ball of light descending, illuminating New York City. The object touches down in Central Park, sending citizens fleeing. The scientists, wearing protective suits, cautiously approach the glowing sphere. Their instruments detect strong electromagnetic waves. Military police and snipers surround the area. A dazzling light flashes, and an alien figure emerges. Helen, entranced, reaches for him as he extends his hand, but a shot rings out and the alien collapses into her arms. Suddenly, a massive robot appears, emitting an ultrasonic pulse that disables all machinery and stuns everyone. It reaches for the fallen alien, but at a gesture from him, it freezes and shuts down. The equipment resumes normal function. The wounded alien is rushed to a military lab. Doctors, uncertain how to treat him, lose valuable time. Helen insists on bringing in a surgeon to remove the bullet. As the surgeon operates, a gray, stringy outer layer peels away, revealing a being who looks human. He is placed in a protective capsule, and his vital signs stabilize. Waking, he panics but calms when he sees Helen, who assures him he is safe. The alien soon takes on a complete human appearance identical to the mountaineer from 1928. He repeats Helen's words as if learning them. News of the encounter sparks global panic. Stock markets close and evacuations begin. Similar glowing spheres land worldwide. At an emergency meeting, U.S. Secretary of Defense Regina Jackson learns the aliens have hacked a spy satellite and now possess classified defense data. The group visits the alien in his room. He speaks haltingly, asking for water and noting that he needs time to adjust to his human body. When asked his name and intentions, he calls himself Klaatu and says he represents a consortium of civilizations. He requests a United Nations summit, but Regina refuses. She orders him injected with a truth serum and moved to a secure location. Scientists argue that Klaatu is invaluable, but the secretary insists he could be dangerous. Dr. Granier argues with her until Helen promises to handle the injection. When an FBI agent hands her the serum, she substitutes saline. Klaatu is told he will be moved, but he refuses and says he plans to leave the base. Regina insists he invaded Earth illegally and his robot attacked the military. Klaatu explains that the robot only reacts to violence. Regina orders the injection. While administering it, Helen whispers for him to escape. Klaatu is then chained to a chair for a lie detector session. During questioning, he reprograms the machine, electrocuting the agent and using him to learn the base layout. Klaatu dons the agent's uniform, takes control of the base electronics, and stuns guards with an ultrasonic pulse. Alarm sirens blare, but he slips away. Regina orders his immediate recapture. At a chaotic train station, Klaatu, now partly human and hungry, uses his powers to obtain food from a vending machine. He watches the angry crowd but soon feels weak. Blood seeps from his wound, and he collapses in a restroom. Back at Helen's house, a stranger tells her that her patient is at the station. Realizing he means Klaatu, she hurries there, finds him, and drives him home. Jacob scowls at Klaatu, who asks Helen for some of his removed gray tissue. He applies it to his wound, which heals instantly. Meanwhile, the military tries to attack the massive robot. Sensing danger, it activates, seizes control of the weapons, and destroys them. Every assault fails. The trio arrives at a destination. While Jacob is in the restroom, Klaatu asks Helen about her family. She explains that Jacob's father, a military engineer, and his birth mother are gone. She married his father, who subsequently died, leaving her to raise the boy. Where Klaatu meets an elderly man named Mr. Wu, an alien who came years earlier to study humanity. Klaatu advises him to leave, but Mr. Wu chooses to stay. He has grown fond of humans and has a family, though he views humanity as destructive. The military places armored panels around the dormant robot, hoping to suppress it. A hotline receives numerous sightings of Klaatu, whom authorities label a fugitive. Helen, Klaatu, and Jacob head to New Jersey. In the woods, Klaatu exits the car and wanders off. Helen follows, leaving Jacob locked inside. A swarm of insects guides her to a lake, where a glowing orb rises from the water. Klaatu triggers other spheres to depart from around the globe. Helen returns, shaken. Jacob worries she might marry Klaatu and replace his father. Distressed, he runs into the forest. Helen pursues him. They see a bright beam among the trees. It is another sphere leaving. Only the original sphere remains. Klaatu orders Helen to drive him back to the city. She demands an explanation. He replies that humans are destroying Earth. Few planets support complex life, and his mission is to save this one by removing humanity. Helen pleads that people can change and deserve a chance, but Klaatu doubts it, saying they have long observed humanity with no improvement and the process has begun. A patrolman finds them and aims his gun at Klaatu. Jacob begs Klaatu not to hurt him. Klaatu pushes Helen's car toward the officer, rendering him unconscious. He then uses the car's energy to resuscitate the man, explaining he meant only to remove an obstacle. Helen believes Klaatu can still stop the catastrophe and offers to take him to someone who can change his mind. Elsewhere, intelligence agents discover that the spheres are carrying Earth species away. Regina likens it to a Noah's Ark scenario. Military leaders prepare for an attack and place the robot deep underground. Helen takes Klaatu to a Nobel Prize-winning mathematician. Klaatu notices an unfinished equation on a chalkboard and corrects it. The scientist joins in solving it. Impressed, he realizes who his guest is. Jacob sees a news alert and calls the tip line, betraying Klaatu's location. The scientist asks how Klaatu's civilization survived. Klaatu says their son was dying, forcing them to evolve. The mathematician argues humanity can change when pushed to the brink. Klaatu seems to ponder this, but helicopters arrive, interrupting the discussion. Klaatu, Helen, and Jacob flee into the woods. The mathematician advises Helen to prove her point through actions, not arguments. Jacob waves and shouts at the helicopters to attract them, saying it's what his father would do. Helen reminds him his father is gone. Soldiers snatch Helen and fly away. The other helicopters target Klaatu. Using his powers, he stuns the pilots, causing them to crash into each other. Jacob, afraid, runs deeper into the forest, but nearly falls into a river. Klaatu saves him and persuades him to come along. At headquarters, Helen begs Regina to release her, arguing that Klaatu trusts only her. Meanwhile, military technicians experiment on the robot. A diamond drill breaks off in its armor, releasing tiny metallic insects that multiply rapidly. The robot disintegrates into millions of nanobots that consume everything and turn people at the base to dust. Missiles only increase their numbers. The swarm forms a deadly cloud spreading in all directions. Realizing brute force is futile, Regina frees Helen and calls in Dr. Granier to help. Klaatu brings Jacob to a cabin and lets him phone Helen. Jacob suggests a safe meeting place. En route, Jacob admits he no longer wants to destroy Klaatu. Klaatu begins questioning his mission. Jacob takes him to a cemetery and begs him to resurrect his father, as he revived the patrolman. Klaatu is unable to. Heartbroken, Jacob tells him to leave. Helen arrives and consoles Jacob. Witnessing their reunion, Klaatu realizes humans have goodness and should be spared, but they must change their ways. The nanobot cloud nears New York, consuming a stadium in seconds. Despite Regina's appeals to negotiate, the president orders renewed attacks. Helen, Jacob, Klaatu, and Granier race to Central Park and the remaining sphere, crashing through roadblocks. Military forces do not pursue, allowing them to proceed. The park is empty, the personnel gone. Suddenly, Air Force jets strike the sphere, following Regina's orders. Granier dies, and the others are surrounded by the nanobots. Klaatu says they must reach the sphere, but the swarm closes in. He hides Helen and Jacob under a bridge. Jacob's nose bleeds, and he loses consciousness. Helen pleads for Klaatu to save him. Klaatu removes the nanobots from them, drawing them into himself. He repeats the mathematician's point. Humans can change when facing oblivion. He shares a last look with Helen and Jacob, then walks out into the swarm and reaches the sphere. His touch destroys all the nanobots, but simultaneously shuts down all Earth technology. Cities go dark and machines stop. Klaatu views this as a fair price for Earth's survival. He departs, leaving humanity with one final chance to change its ways.